Expect the best used car deals guaranteed. Visit arnoldclark.com.
Welcome to Peter and Ruffy's Football Show. It's Tuesday. I'm Peter Martin. Thank you very much for watching the programme. Alan Ruff and Hugh MacDonald of the Daily Mail are with me. And would you believe it? Tuesday, the fallout from that Scotland win over San Marino is still here. Yes, the Kazakhstan defeat is painful, and even a win over San Marino can't lift us on a Tuesday. It's as simple as that. Some people have been calling for the manager's head over the last 48 hours and beyond. He's still there. Hugh MacDonald, are you one of them, part of that group saying, Alec, it's time to go?
No, I would have been part of the group saying, Alec, it's time not to come. I said at the time on this programme, I didn't think it was the strongest appointment. I didn't think that the recruitment process was handled properly at all. I think it was very slipshod and basically not fit for purpose. Where we are at the moment, though, is that we have to bin all hopes of qualifying from the group. It's over, it's done, it's dusted. People will say there's a lot of games to go, but if you don't beat Kazakhstan, that's it, you're hold below the waterline. And we've got to build towards, some showing in the playoffs for which we have qualified, although that'll be very, very difficult because we'll have, good motivated teams up against them. I see at this point in time no upside to sacking the manager, particularly for the SFA, who will be pretty short of money at the moment, and it'll be a considerable outlay to get rid of him. So I think we're stuck to the playoffs.
Yeah, I think we were pretty short of money in the first place to try and recruit anybody, Ruffy. Steve Clarke didn't want the job. David Moyes didn't want the job at the time. And then you're starting to look and you're saying to yourself, too early for Jack Ross, he's a young manager. And you're starting to say to yourself, who could come in on a certain budget and get the best out of the players we have available? I don't think there were too many options.
No, and Hugh's right to say that there are a lot of people out there, but you've got to put your name forward and show that there is an interest. I mean, we are a group of young players. You would think somebody would come in and see it as something on their CV, but I don't think there was enough people out there. Alec was an option that had done well, particularly the last time he was in, and that's why they went for him. But I'm not for sacking him either, but I do think he's put himself under extreme pressure, and the players under extreme pressure in every game that comes up now. We've got the Cyprus game, which we need to win, obviously. I don't think we've any chance of beating Belgium, but we need to put up a good performance because every game is going to be scrutinised to the detail, right down to the bare bones. So we need to show something positive in these next two games. Yeah,
Andy Robertson says the players need to stick together, need to dig in, just try and get us out of this mess. That's fine. It's a great, statement coming out of the Scotland captain. On the other flip side of that, you get Derek McInnes leaping to the defence of Graham Shinnie, saying that the criticism is bang out of order. You're playing international football. You have to step up to the plate. If you have a bad game, you have a bad game.
No, you can see. I can see Derek's point because he wants to protect his player, but Derek will know in his heart of hearts. Nowadays in football, everything is visible. If you play poorly, you're going to get slaughtered for it. Graham played particularly poorly against Kazakhstan. By no means was he the only one, by the way. Back four, ramshackle. There was no urgency in midfield, no threat up front. Good players who I think are good players, just didn't perform. And Shinnie was one of them, and he's going to get. And the world moves on. He'll take his tanking for that. He's a big boy. He's got a series of huge games coming up for his club. He's got a series of big decisions, or perhaps just one big decision to make shortly as well. So the whole football world will move on from that.
Yeah, he wasn't good enough to feature in Gordon Strachan's side, and suddenly he's good enough now. I actually think, Hugh, that most of the players that we have at the moment are not of a great standard. They've been elevated beyond the real worth. I mean, some of the managers are trying to get as much money as possible, which is fine and dandy, but these players are not at a level that you're thinking to yourself, they can go and do something special. I'm sorry, they don't even get me excited.
Well, they're not, but you should still comfortably beat Kazakhstan. I mean, if we had Niall McGinn and Josh McGuinness in their team, they wouldn't get anywhere near our 24. Nowhere near our 24. Niall McGinn and Josh McGuinness are scoring regularly in European qualifiers.
And that's my criticism of Alex McLeish. If I'm going to be critical of the Scotland manager, I thought he got his tactics wrong. Now, that's all right in hindsight, but I look over the last 20 years and we are only at our best, Hugh, when we play to our strengths, which is basically making us difficult to beat. Now, in the last 20 years, the closest we've come, I think, was in Barry Ferguson's era. Now, that team didn't suddenly take the game to anyone. They defended. I can remember us slaughtering Gary Caldwell and Steve McManus at that time as well. But that team defended. They knew exactly what their strengths were.
Absolutely. And when they scored, it was usually enough to give them victory. You know, people forget that they beat France home and away, and by one goal, won a worldly, but won a goal which was a set piece, regular set piece. And you could basically look at Scotland teams then, from Craig Brown, I would say, onwards, as being a nothing team. And by that I mean nothing, zero was always against them. The amount of clean sheets that these teams held out for, you couldn't say that now. I mean, I think the terrible thing for Alec is the Kazakhstan result is so catastrophic that it affects everything, and it infects everything coming. It infected the San Marino game, where you're playing a back four and two holding midfield players against San Marino. And that was all because of the Kazakhstan result.
Yeah.
It now is going to affect the Cyprus result. It's such a terrible result that it's like a virus that's going to pass through the rest of the campaign.
If anything, I think Alex, decided to go against the grain of every team that he's ever built. I mean, he built his success as a manager on being difficult to beat. I mean, the Rangers fans were never happy with him when he was manager there. They thought the team was turgid, didn't like them. The Birmingham fans weren't happy with him. He delivered silverware for them. He goes through this attitude of, let's make the team solid and defensive and difficult to beat. He didn't do that the other night there against Kazakhstan.
No, and perversely he did against San Marino.
Yeah.
I mean, but he's just hate at the moment. You just look at him. I know the personal affection. I mean, I absolutely like the man. I think he's a very good man, and I like him. And now you're just wincing for him going forward, because, as I said at the start of the problem, I don't think sacking him brings us any closer to him at the moment. I don't think there's a will in the SFA to sack him. But by goodness, this is going to be a really painful time for Alec McLeish, because every game he's going to go into now is a crisis match. Yeah,
absolutely. Another thing that's painful, Ruffy, is we have a group of players, some of them don't have the desire to play for Scotland. And, for anyone who pulls a stroke, I would hunt them. I'd never let them near a Scotland jersey again.
Yeah, but I think if you listen to wee Gordon at the weekend there are things now in place that wasn't there when we were there. The sports scientist, the guy who identifies the injuries, the teams saying no, they're not playing, the AstroTurf and all that stuff that's thrown in there. So you really have to make sure the guy that you're bumping is the right guy for the right reason, or it's going to come back and haunt you. I agree with you. I do get the AstroTurf thing if you've got an injury, but I still think you could push yourself out for one or two games. I just feel if you really, really want to play, pull the jersey on and take the hit.
Yeah, those days are gone, Hugh.
I think they're gone, Peter. We can have another programme on this, but I think the international football is sliding so far, except for the big clubs, big nations, who are making big money out of it, big merchandising, 3 Lions, DVB, all that stuff. Brazil. for other countries, it's become, for all clubs, it's become an irritation, and for many fans, it's become just a bore.
Yeah, yep. Well, you can give us your view on that on social media. Coming up after the break, we'll talk about strict liability. For the benefit of anyone who was struggling with that competition, I foolishly gave out the answer yesterday.
Always good to give an answer.
Absolutely, you know, straight in there. So there's quite a few people who are in the running for it this week, you know, for that year. Just as soon as I spotted that Scotland squad, out it came. Nevertheless, if you've got a chance to enter the competition, you can win one of our PLZ team T-shirts in your favourite colour. Simple as that. Okay, as far as a survey that the BBC conducted, strict liability. 3 out of 42 clubs, obviously one of them, your club, Ruffy, pitched in and said, yep, we're up for it. No comment from quite a number of clubs against. Quite a few clubs from, League One and the Championship, and then no response from Celtic, Rangers and a number of others on this. And quite simply, there's no response because they don't want it to happen. It's as simple as that. They don't want. Don't want strict liability.
I'm actually surprised 3 clubs have voted for it. I'm actually surprised at that.
Yeah. I don't suspect there's too much trouble in the Partick Thistle away end.
I don't know when Ruffy's there.
Yeah.
I mean, we know when he can be a very boisterous presence at times. But no, I don't. My views on it off-stated. Clubs don't want it, and I don't think the government's that keen to introduce it. I think it's going to be, again, being cynical, as we talked earlier on about this, I think it's going to be a recurring problem that we have summits about, shrug our shoulders, move on to the next lunatic doing something. I just don't think there's a will to really bite this bullet.
There might not be a will on strict liability right now, Ruffy, but because it's a recurring theme, this is not something that suddenly people are discussing and then the bad behaviour stops.
No.
It continues. We only have to look at what was happening last night at international level. I mean, the despicable behaviour of Montenegro fans towards Raheem Sterling, towards Danny Rose. This is Raheem Sterling's tweet. I mean, he scores the goal, best way to silence the haters, and racists. Put the ball in the back of the net. I mean, we're in the 21st century. We haven't moved on. We're getting worse. I think some people think that they're perfectly legitimate in their conduct.
Yeah, and I think in certain countries they do think that they can get away with it, but fortunately for us and everybody, in these competitions, FIFA and UEFA tend to come down very, very hard on anything that's happening, and they don't mess about. They don't hang about waiting in meetings and everything. They just go bump. You're not getting any people in your ground. You're in this international game, and that's the way to do it. Particularly if it's as big and as bad as what happened the other night there, because we've talked about identifying individuals. That's not the case when this happens. You just act accordingly.
Yeah, and the England manager Gareth Southgate was quick to condemn the actions of the Montenegro fans.
I'm reflecting on, should I have done more? In the end, I think I try to protect my players as much as I possibly can. I'm not the authority on the subject. I'm a middle-aged white guy speaking about racism. It's not something that I really have. I just finding it a really difficult subject to broach, because I want my players to enjoy playing football and not be scarred by the experiences. And if people feel I should have done more, then I can only apologise for that.
Yeah, I like him. I love the way he conducts himself. I think he's a gentleman. You know, he's questioning whether he should do more and make a stronger stance on it. I don't know how you educate these people.
I don't know how either, but I mean, one thing that happened that didn't happen last night, which I think would go some way toward, the referee's got the power to take the players off the park.
Seen it before, yeah.
He's got the power to do that, and that's actually a UEFA recommendation. So the referee should have taken the players off the park last night, and then he should have made...
What does that achieve, just out of curiosity?
Well, that would then, you make an announcement, say, if this continues, this is over, the game's over, you've lost all your points, it's done.
Yeah.
It's an immediate, you know, people shouting for strict liability. This is immediate liability. This is intolerable.
Yeah.
If you're serious about it, that is much more significant than closing a stand and playing in front of closed doors.
Yeah.
You're actually saying to people on the night, if your mate is doing this, standing next to you, the game's over and you lose.
It's a 3-0 win to England.
And you're done.
Yeah. Although, to be perfectly honest with you, you know, as much as it's painful for us to watch Scotland, you know, they were impressive last night.
I've got no problem. Actually, I've got no problem with England being impressive. I really haven't. I mean, I think it's this outdated thing where we all, you know, criticise England, the old enemy. Of course, they're rivals. Of course, they're just over the border. But you can't fail to be excited I mean, if we all love football, which I do, I love sitting watching, and I love pace, I love technique, I love vibrancy, I love players proving me wrong. We talked earlier on, I didn't see the hype early about Raheem Sterling. I knew he was very, very quick, but I didn't see if he was going to make that step up to the real elite player. I didn't think he had the touch for that. I thought he was a bit frantic in finishing. But my goodness, Pep Guardiola and Gareth Southgate, between them, and perhaps the kid himself, you know, growing up and maturing, he's a smashing player now. I think Sancho of Dortmund is going to be a top player for them. Yep, I think they're really exciting to watch, and great, good on them.
Yeah. Talking of excitement, there's a fair bit of hype that surrounds the big game on Sunday. This could be the last chance for Rangers to keep any faint title hopes alive, if indeed there was a title race to begin with. It depends on your own perspective on it. Ruffy, I didn't think there was a title race, and I've always suspected Celtic would have won the league by minimum 10 points. If they win on Sunday, it'll be 13 points clear, and the game's a bogey.
Yes, I would agree with that, and Steven Gerrard will have to come up with something. You know, we saw Rangers going to
he just calls him whatever comes in. Says, you know,
Gerrard.
honestly,
I thought there was a sacking. I said, has there been a sacking?
Gerrard, that was French.
Yeah, so did I when the way you pronounced it.
No, I think they'll have to go there with a plan. You know, we saw Rangers going to Parkhead before and sitting in and pressing Celtic. Celtic need their better players back. I think Celtic are just stumbling along just now. Obviously, 3 big players are out just now. You know, if we could get any of them back, it would make a difference. But it's home advantage. And I think Rangers are the ones that will have to come up with something special to take something out of this game. Yeah,
listen, we're in this zone right now where everybody is closely scrutinising players and managers. My personal opinion is he will get the summer to strengthen what he already has in the squad and what he's built, which I think is not very inspiring, to be perfectly honest with you, Hugh. But I think if he loses, and there's a certain way you can lose an Old Firm game that suddenly people will be calling for Steven Gerrard's head, I think he's got to get out of there with a positive result.
Yeah, and I think even in a sort of performance of substance as well, he did very well in the January game, and that was, you know, going into the break, that looked as if it was a statement of intent. We now know it wasn't, because the inconsistencies have dogged them. Hugely interesting game, the way Neil Lennon approaches it, what the resources he has available, how he marshals his resources. One of the things that it's been slightly forgotten about Celtic since January is just how good the defence has been. The defence has been outstanding. They've lost that strange goal against Motherwell and an absolutely bizarre goal against Hearts. Otherwise, it's been basically clean sheets. So it'll be interesting, is Boyata back fit after his his personal problems which we don't know about. Does he play Lustig, Peter, because he's a great fan? You know, does Rogic come back into the team immediately? Does Tierney play?
Does Morelos need to score in the game to suddenly just enhance the true credibility of him as a striker?
Yeah, I mean, his season wouldn't be completely torpedoed by not scoring against Celtic, but yeah, it's got to the time, hasn't it, that he's going to have to score, not just against Celtic, but against top teams to show his quality. I think you know, he's had really good chances against Celtic as well.
Give me a prediction.
I think Celtic will win.
By a couple, by one, what?
I think the Celtic will win maybe 2-0.
Okay. Ruffy, will hang on for you because obviously your day can change 1 minute to the next. If somebody whispers something in your ear, it can change your opinion. So we'll give you till Friday.
All depends who the Rangers manager is as well. Is it Gerrard or Gerrard?
Who knows? For him, Ruffy didn't even know he could speak French, to be perfect. Anyway, thanks to Hugh MacDonald, thanks to Ruffy, thanks to you for watching.
Expect the best used car deals guaranteed. Visit arnoldclark.com.